The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
There goes that man's jock strap.
Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports. There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship. Green Bay's got it this year. Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
The In a League of Their Own podcast is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Screw your shoes. By Canadips. Rep Sports. By Smooth My Balls. And by Streamer Loot. Check out the In a League of Their Own merch line today. Welcome to the show. Let's see what Austin and Collin are diving into today.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the In a League of Their Own podcast. Starting with episode 69 today, we're going to be starting to do a fun fact or just a fun story associated with the number of the episode we are doing. So with episode 69, I promise we did not plan this. For those of you who are going to make jokes about it starting at episode 69, but the fun story I found is that Rob Gronkowski was playing in a high school basketball game. At the end of the game, he went to the free throw line and made the first free throw to bring the team's total to 69. And then on the second free throw, chucked it as hard as he could off the backboard to purposely miss it and keep the point total at 69. Sprinted down the court laughing and pointing at the scoreboard at like the crowd and his bench and the opposing team and stuff. Yeah, it was just a fun story. It seems like a kind of a Gronk thing to do. So looking around at number 69 in sports, stories and facts, this was kind of one of the ones that stuck out to me as being one of the most funny ones. So I figured I'd bring that one up today. So yeah, I guess starting forward or starting from now on, we'll start to do that kind of with every episode, switching off every day. So yeah, jumping right into the NFL then, what is the latest around the football league?
So the biggest news, I should say, is probably surrounding the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. GM Brian Gutekunst and Rodgers had a conversation yesterday on the phone, and according to what was posted in the article, everything seemed to go pretty well. There seemed to be getting close, and they're remaining hopeful that there'll be a positive resolution with the team here, and that everything will be, back to normal and everything will be fine, like this never even happened, sort of a deal. Rodgers finished up his normal off-season workouts that he's been doing ever since he's entered the league with Pro Performance out in California, and that just finished up there on Sunday. In order for people to get back to their training camps that start. Vets have to report by tomorrow, and everybody else had to report today. And one of the people who was asked questions about, do you think he's, ready and going to play football? And one of the people who works there said, yeah, he's been working all off season, to get better at being a quarterback, and he's excited to get back out there and play football. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires here going forward. If he shows up tomorrow, if what's going to kind of happen. I know we posted about the Devontae Adams, Tunyon, and Rodgers all posting the picture of like from The Last Dance. Maybe that's just a sign of how they feel about ownership and Jerry Krause, how they felt about how he really was trying to take all the credit for what the players have done. And as Rodgers has said multiple times before, that it's about the people in the organization that build the foundation. It's not about the people on top that get credit for everything that goes on. So I think this is going to be really interesting, going forward here. As the Adams talk stalls, now Rodgers, there's supposedly good news coming out on his end that everything's going to be good to go. So I don't believe anything until I see it. So I guess hopefully he shows up tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's going to be the biggest factor as to whether, obviously if he doesn't show up, then, then they're not close at all to resolving anything, because then at that point, Rodgers at $50,000 a day, which obviously when you're at that level, money, isn't that big of an issue, but $50,000 racks up quickly if you are looking to make a point and he doesn't show up. I mean, 2 days is $100,000. 5 days, that's $250,000 if he doesn't show up. So if he's not showing up, then he's really sticking to his guns about not showing up to be able to take that kind of a fine. Again, if the Packers decide to address or administer that fine, which at this point I could see them doing because of the fact that if they just let him not show up and then eventually show up on his own terms when he wants to, um, the Packers or any team for that matter is taking a huge risk keeping that roster spot open for a guy who might never show because that's dead cap space. And you're technically playing with a 52-man roster instead of a 53 like every other team is in the league. That's a disadvantage to have one less person on that roster. So, which I mean, eventually I'm sure they call up a practice squad guy or how that works to fill that 53rd spot. But to leave that spot open, to never have it filled, that's a big risk to take. So, yeah, tomorrow's basically going to determine all the months and months of agony and frustration and wondering what's going on. It's all going to boil down to one day, tomorrow morning, whether he shows up or not.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the biggest news in the sports world. I'm excited to see if he shows up tomorrow or not. And yeah, we'll touch back on that on Wednesday when our next episode kicks off. Then, going back to the NFL here, Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Reich tests positive for COVID-19 despite being vaccinated a long time ago. I'm starting to see this more and more now throughout the sports world. Look at John Rahm. He's tested positive again. So, and then the biggest news with the NFL coming out stating that they're going to be fining players $14,000 for any COVID-related issues if a player is unvaccinated. So, there was one. Leonard Fournette says he's going to consider now getting the vaccine, despite his tweet on speaking on the contrary, how he would never do it and how he doesn't believe that he's a lot of the people who've gotten it, you're basically a guinea pig. You're like research on how well this works or not, because this was so rushed and not a normal vaccine that takes years and years of research and testing. And now that the NFL is kind of like strongholding these players, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not you have players boycotting, sitting out, or just flat up retiring. Players who are vets, older in their careers, who don't want to deal with the bullshit of dealing with this, they could simply just retire. I'm sure plenty of them have enough money that they can live the rest of their life very comfortably. And it was a bold move by the NFL, I think, to come out and state that publicly.
Yeah, I feel like the more like every other day the NFL is bringing out another protocol to add to the list, another fine, to where basically it's going to come down to a minute like ability to live your normal life as an NFL player unvaccinated, to where it's like, oh, you're going to stay unvaccinated, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. And it's going to get to the point where that $14,000 fine is going to become 20, 30, 40, $50,000 fines, to where, oh, you tested positive, you're not vaccinated, suspension. Like, you know what I mean? It's the way that the NFL is trending, where they're gonna keep upping the ante to try to force these players, which is not right to do. Obviously, have the correct protocol in place, like they did a year ago to people who, I mean, before the vaccination came out, they should keep those same protocols to where, oh, you test positive, you're out for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and just kind of roll with it like that. Now they're just making up rules on the fly to try to peer pressure these guys into getting it.
Yeah, because even if you do get the vaccine, you can still test positive and still
then
get
what?
sick
You still
and
get
all
the
that
fine.
stuff. So what's the point? Exactly. Like, so people are still going to get fined for getting positive tests and being vaccinated if they cause an outbreak.
Yeah.
Like, NFL really needs to feel like they need to do some backtracking instead of trying to be the foot that's stomping down. They should try to listen to what the players want, and I'm sure they can find some middle ground that everybody can agree on.
Yeah. And kind of one of those names that you had mentioned is DeAndre Hopkins. I think we talked about it a little bit last week as far as how he has concerns as to being unvaccinated, how he could potentially hurt his team, with the NFL making that rule of if so many cases happen or so many protocols are break, the team will be forced to forfeit. I'm sure that's kind of what he is referring to where him being unvaccinated, to where if he's that 10th guy or that 5th guy, whatever that number, that criteria is going to be, to if so many people test positive, you have to forfeit the game. Where I'm sure there's guilt in that, to where if you become that last guy, to where, oh, if I was vaccinated, maybe we wouldn't have hit that criteria and we'd be able to play this week. But at the same time, like, as much as there's guilt in that, like, it's not, you're not the one who, I'm sure none of these players agreed to this rule. Like, every rule that's come out has benefited the players in a negative way. So I'm sure the NFL is just like, whatever in their contract, to where the NFL can come out with these rules on the fly and the players have to adhere with them with no questions asked. So yeah, I mean, the NFL isn't going to do it, but they should almost just say, okay, we're kind of reassessing this. We're going to start from scratch. And then they kind of go through every step of the protocol and put it in a more reasonable way that isn't punishing these players as much. Of course, they aren't going to do that. The NFL isn't going to say, oh, we made an oopsie and we're going to go back on everything we said and redo it. But they need to start, like, loosening the leash a little bit on these players.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a couple points quick here for me to touch on really fast. Odell Beckham Jr. came out publicly and said that the Browns have a special opportunity this season at a Super Bowl. I believe it is held in Cleveland, I think, this year.
The Super Bowl?
Yeah.
No, it's in Los Angeles.
Is it?
At the Chargers and Rams new stadium. The draft was in Cleveland. Or supposed to be in Cleveland. Yeah, it was in Cleveland.
Okay. Excuse me, people. I apologize on that. I thought that, I guess I should have done read 2 more lines further into the article, and I wouldn't have made that mistake. But yeah, he says that the Browns have a special opportunity this season after bringing over Sheldon Richardson to their D-line. And now that he's going to be back healthy, their team's like a full go, and it's going to be interesting. They got their first playoff win last year, and hopefully, their whole team can stay healthy this season, and who really knows what can happen. That team's a pretty freakishly good team when they're all clicking on all cylinders there.
Yeah. I mean, they were down to a 4th and 1, 4th and 2 against the Chiefs. They're that close to being able to have a chance to go win the game. So, I mean, when you have decades of drought and kind of having this big uphill, this mountain to climb, and you come that close to a Super Bowl champion 2 years ago, knocking them out, that's a big boost to that team. Again, missing Odell, having some other injuries, being a super young team, not having that experience to get that far. Yeah, I mean, I like where the Browns are at as well. Odell kind of hit it perfectly, where they have a special opportunity to go the distance this year, especially in the AFC North. That's going to be a really fun division to watch, as the Steelers, again, we're 12-0 at one point last season, fell apart. They could have been a really good team. The Ravens, again, being right there, Lamar Jackson doing what he does, and the Bengals even trending up as one of the kind of the bottom of the barrel teams for years. They're starting to trend up, what kind of revamping that offense and some of the coaching staff as well. So that's going to be kind of like the NFC West. Of course, AFC North isn't as good as the NFC West, but it's starting to get to that point where top to bottom, the division is super competitive to where you don't know who's going to win the division. So yeah, it's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, and then sticking with the Bengals, Joe Burrow is unlikely to play in the preseason. Owner of the team, Mike Brown, came out publicly and said that planning to just rehab, keep going through training, keep getting him into tip-top shape so that by week 1, he's 100%. Also, the Bears got rid of Anthony Miller. They sent him down to the Houston Texans. And then other Houston Texans news, they are now open to trading Deshaun Watson after all this time of them holding out and saying kind of what the Packers have been doing with Rodgers, like, we're not trading you no matter what. Time will tell. And the time is now taking place to where they're open to dealing him. So it's going to be very interesting to see where he ends up, if he ends up anywhere. Still no more news about his assault allegations, like publicly or anything. And, you know, he hasn't been put on the exempt list yet, which you'd think that he would have already if training camp's starting tomorrow. But yeah, he reported this morning. And yeah, what do you think is going to happen next with the Texans and Deshaun Watson here? Where do you think he's going to end up?
I think that the front running team who's kind of had the most interest in him would be kind of a good landing spot for him, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been the one team since the beginning that as soon as Deshaun Watson said he wanted to trade, the Eagles kind of threw their name in the hat. And then like basically on the month, every month throughout this whole offseason, the Eagles are still interested. The Eagles are still interested. The Eagles still want Deshaun Watson. So they haven't pulled out of having interest in him this whole offseason. So, I mean, if they actually want him as much as the media has made it seem like they wanted him, I think that could be the biggest spot for him. There's only a couple other teams that kind of were interested and then fell off the wagon early on in the offseason as kind of the allegation talk got bigger and bigger and it became more of a mess. A lot of teams pulled out, and the Eagles have stuck to it again the whole time. And that's again a young team, kind of had a rough patch since they won a Super Bowl a few years back. Jalen Hurts is their QB1 right now, but obviously still a young guy that could use a guy like Watson in the room to kind of prep him, or have Watson completely take that team over if he's ready to go. So yeah, the Eagles kind of seems like the biggest team that makes sense for him right now. Otherwise, I could see Houston hanging on to him, even though Watson doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, I think the Eagles, like you said, I think that's going to be his landing spot. Everything makes sense about that deal. And then the last thing that I have here is where was it? No, the only thing, the last thing that I have here is 99 Club in Madden 22. Devontae Adams. What do you think about that, being the number 1 rated receiver?
Yeah, it was great to see him on that second year in a row. Last year, Rodgers actually presented it to him, I think on like a Zoom call. They had like a team meeting or whatever, and Madden had Rodgers present it to him, so that was really cool. And then this time he was out on the golf course, and cart pulls up with the 99 Club box in the back, and yeah, very well deserving. It's kind of the Madden 99 Club is kind of like a Madden curse in a way, to where some players who get into the 99 Club kind of fall off into the mid 90s the next year by not playing as well. So some of their stats go down. And if anything, Adams probably went up because he had a great year 2 years ago. They added him to the 99 Club, and then he had this past year, like his best year that he's had yet. So yeah, very well deserving. Great to see him on that list. I didn't really get to see any new players out of that list. Obviously, you still have like your Aaron Donalds,
Yep, he's still 99. Rodgers is 99. Derrick Henry's 99. Mahomes is 99. Brady's 99. Travis Kelce's 99.
Okay.
And then who else joins it? Adams, And that's looks like it.
Yeah, it's a small list, which I mean, it's
I'm just surprised it's all offense, no defense.
Aaron
Besides Aaron
Donald.
Donald.
Yeah.
Because before that, you had Stephon Gilmore, who's 99 on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald. Well, I suppose. I guess it's kind of always been the same.
Yeah. There's not really anybody else that's really worth. Like, obviously, there's like Jair Alexander. He's probably ranked in the 90s. Jalen Ramsey's probably ranked in the 90s. JJ Watt. I think he was on the 99 club probably 4 or 5 years back. Yeah, there's guys who come and go, but the offense has kind of dominated the 99 club because it's the most flashy. Like, nobody really, somebody would rather be a 99 running back or a quarterback running over dudes or throwing zingers rather than a 99 linebacker who's just, well, Luke Kuechly, I think he was on the 99 club back when he used to play too. So,
Yeah, so excuse me, I apologize on that. So the only person so far officially announced that is in the 99 club is Devontae Adams.
the other ones are just speculated.
Predictions.
Okay.
And the one predictions on Aaron Rodgers here is the only reason somebody from EA speculates that he would not earn a 99 overall rating is because of his current status with the Green Bay Packers.
That doesn't make sense, though. Whether
Says the uncertainty around Aaron Rodgers' situation may lead the Madden developers to drop his rating just a tad below the upper echelon.
That doesn't make sense. Whether he's a Packer or a Dolphin or a Texan, he's Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean?
Right.
His arm talent isn't going to change no matter what. So that's
I just feel like
figure it out, Madden. Have a better reason than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then kind of wrap things up here. The last point that I had to throw into the NFL is linebacker Chandler Jones requests a trade out of Arizona. Kind of out of the blue. He's had a lot of success in Arizona, and obviously that team's trending up. But again, in a very tough NFC West. I don't know if that has any part to do with him wanting out, as this division is the toughest division in the NFL. I want out to where I can stand out a little bit more, or if it's politics with that team. But yeah, he requested a trade, and the Cardinals came out and said, we are not trading him, and we expect him to report. So, and I think they had to report yesterday or today. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Doesn't look like he's going to get out of there, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he wanted to be one of the highest paid linebackers in the league. And then they brought JJ Watt over and gave him a huge deal. And he wanted more money, and now he's unhappy that he's not getting it. And clearly they're not in any situation or have the cap space to be able to give him that. So if he hits the market, I can see 31 other teams in the NFL all calling Arizona to get him. Yeah,
again, he's one of those guys who has the performance and the leadership in a locker room that you want. Again, getting a little older, so he's probably a couple, like 1, 2, maybe 3 years past his prime, to where he's starting on the decline. Again, the linebacker position is a very grueling position to where you can only give that high top-notch level of hits and aggressiveness for only a handful of years before you start to decline. But yeah, like you said, all 31 teams, I could see, I mean, except for the Packers, maybe right now, for the issues they're going through, to go out and let's go out and get this guy, even though these other guys were trying to have issues with. But yeah, so
yeah, he's only 31, so he's still got a bit yet.
Yeah. So yeah, that wraps up the NFL here then. Moving into our Monday segment, kind of prepping for today, realized that we had missed the last 2 weeks of our No segment. Kind of got caught up on the Bucks finals thing. Usually that's what we've been talking about on Mondays, and I feel like we just kind of forgot about the No segment. But bringing it back today, today's Ynot segment, going to be kind of similar to the last time I did it for Austin. Here is more of a opinionated list. So today's list is a top 5 Ynot. So kicking off the list here, we have Steph Curry, top 5 point guard of all time, or no?
Yes.
Well, I guess I'll kind of have a number two or a two-sided question to this. Top 5 all-time player of an NBA player, or no?
No.
It,
He's top 5 point guard, but he's not a top 5 player of all time.
okay. Sounds good. I'll just do that for every question then.
If it was strictly shooting, then yes, he's definitely the best shooter of all time.
All right. Alex Ovechkin, top 5 left wing of all time.
Yeah.
All right. Top 5 NHL player of all time.
That's a very tough question.
Yeah.
I personally would say no. But there's a lot of reasons that you could argue that he could be 5th or up there, but no, I don't think he's top 5 all time. But like same in the Steph category, I will have to say he probably is the greatest scorer of all time.
All right. Moving on to Mr. Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, top 5 quarterback of all time, or no?
No.
All right. So then obviously not a top 5 player of all time then either. I guess where would you have him in your list? Top 10?
Yeah, I'd have him in the top 10. But then like the way that he plays the game is like so much different. So like if you just went like proficiency, he would probably be at the top of the list because his numbers are out of the world. But like as far as being a teammate, winning, all that stuff, championships, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there's categories that he falls into where he's not only top 5, but the best. Interception to touchdown ratio, arguably the best quarterback IQ of all time.
But he's only got 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That hurts him in that.
Yeah, given that there's a lot of great quarterbacks who have multiple Super Bowls, it's hard to put him above other people.
Yeah, he's got to get to at least 3 to be considered that top 5 echelon because there's so many that have 3 or more.
All right, then kind of tangent or off of that, still sticking with the quarterback position, Steve Young, is he a top 5 QB of all time?
Steve Young.
He's got more of the Super Bowls, but in some of the other categories, I mean, I guess comparing to Rodgers with like the IQ, the touchdown to interception ratio, obviously he has more I think he has more yards just because he played longer. I don't know about touchdown.
And he's got 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he's got 3 rings.
I don't know. I'd say he'd be like borderline he'd be like the cutoff like of 5. He'd be right on that borderline. So I'd give him 5. I'll give him 5.
Okay.
And you also did have Jerry Rice on your team too, who's one of the greatest wide
receivers
of all time. So that helps you too. But Rodgers has Adams too. You know what I mean? So granted, it wasn't the whole length of his career, but Jordy Nelson was good. He's had good connections with receivers that we've had. So I feel like just hasn't had enough to get us over the hump. Whether it's coaching, whatever, being in that position, being the quarterback, you can take the game over if you want to. You don't have to listen to what they're calling on the side. You can call whatever play you want to call. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you got to, are you trusting your coach or are you trusting yourself? And that's why I still feel like Rodgers could have audibled out of that and fucking went for it on, like You could have.
Yeah.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But yeah, Steve Young, I'd say he's 5th.
All right. All right, moving to our last 4 here. Phil Mickelson, top 5 golfer of all time or no?
No.
All right. I know like a lot of people
I'd say
put him
he's
as the
probably
greatest
best
lefty. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's probably one of the best lefties, if not the best. But yeah,
Mhm.
top 5 all time, not a shot.
Where would you kind of put him? Like closer to the 10 to 15 range?
Dude, there's so many great golfers, dude. Like, I'd probably put him all time. Yeah, I'd probably put him between 10 and 30, probably. I haven't, obviously, I'd have to pull up a whole list of stuff, but yeah, I'd say he'd probably be a little ahead of middle of the pack, like the top 30%, I'd say.
All right.
There's a lot of golfers who've won so much.
Yeah. Yeah, then moving on here. Kevin Durant's top 5 forward of all time. Yes or no? Again, kind of in that same category as Steph being the greatest shooter of all time. A lot of experts put Kevin Durant as the greatest scorer of all time. But again, having that one thing where people say you're the best at it ever, is that enough to put you in the top 5 list? Yes, he does have 2 titles, but look at what he had to do to go win them. He had to go join a super team.
Top 5 forward, yes. Top 5 all time, no.
All right.
Just
All
for
right.
how he changed the position. You know how he's 7 foot tall and he can score how he can score. He changed the way that the NBA kind of is, just like Steph did in a different way. But you see a lot more people that can shoot the threes like Steph than can do what KD can at 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'd have to give him the nod. But no, top 5 all time, no. But yeah, greatest scorer of all time, hands down.
All right. I guess kind of going back,
he could have maybe put himself in that category if he would have carried the Nets to the championship this season.
That's what I was just about to ask. That's what I was just about to ask. If he would have pulled out that game 7 win against the Bucks
and then gone and beat Atlanta and then gone and beat Phoenix, if he would have done that with that team all banged up, I would have put him in the top 5 all time, because you'd have to carry, that's a one-man show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that rarely ever gets that done.
All right. Now this next one is tough because it's gonna kind of sound like, are you kidding me? Yeah, but at the same time, position. Mike Trout, greatest outfielder, top 5 outfielder of all time. Yes or no?
No. I wouldn't even put him top 10, probably.
Yeah, because he's known for what he does in the batter's box. You don't I can't think of a.
He's a good fielder too, but he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he's probably one of the greatest players ever to be stuck on a shit team his whole career for what he does. He's unbelievable. His stats are unbelievable, what he does in the batter's box, yes, but you got to win, dude. It's more than just being an individual player. It's bigger than that to me, of being a greatest of all time. So I'd say no.
All right. Then the last one here, Terrell Owens, top 5 receiver of all time or no?
I fucking love T.O.
I know. This is probably the toughest. This one, along with Steve Young, were kind of the two that in this list are they're right at that. They could be 4 to 6. You can make an argument for that in that range for these guys. But again, if you're following that 6 mark, you're technically not a top 5.
Oh, I'm just give me a second here. 1, I'd probably put Randy Moss, greatest all time. Marvin Harrison, probably. Jerry Rice, probably be number 2. Fuck, dude. There's so many great receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say no. Top 5, no. I'd say no. I personally love Theo, but as far as stats and winning, and he kind of was an asshole and douchebag. So I'm going to say no.
All right. Yeah, then that kind of wraps up our list here for our no today. Yeah, a lot. I mean, some of these guys are kind of, again, it kind of rather than making it like a top 5 of all time, it kind of changes the narrative when you just have it for that position. But yeah, so that wraps up the no segment for today. Then moving on to our NBA, or we'll just call this our basketball segment. USA basketball looks like they might be in a little trouble here after a 83-76 loss to France yesterday. Great to see our boy Jay Rue just got himself an NBA Finals or NBA title, and then he led the team yesterday with 18 points despite the loss. What do you think is happening with team? Is it the rest of the world's getting better, or is it that everybody has this expectations of USA basketball forever being the dream team when obviously they're not anymore?
Both.
Both, yeah. I
And
think,
with no fans, your family's not able to go. I feel like it's just a rough. It could be a rough place to be, especially after a long, grueling NBA season, and then you're going over there and you're not really getting much of an off season because you got to stay there for how long? I don't know, but I do give a lot of credit to the people Booker, Middleton, and Holiday who went straight from the finals over there to go play. We have a lot of pride, in our USA basketball team, and I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about it. But did you happen to see that robot that they had?
yeah, at halftime.
Dude, didn't miss a shot. Did a free throw, 3-pointer, half court shot, and 3/4 of a court.
Yeah,
Just insane.
all net
And
too.
the announcer was chirping and he goes, "This guy looks like Giannis from the free throw line." Hulk, because you just
Dialing it in.
no, like it was just for whatever reason, it just took forever to shoot the ball from the free throw line.
Yeah,
He's like, "Oh, it looks like Giannis out there."
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried yet either. I will be if so. The last 2 games of their prelims are against Iran and then Czech. Neither of which I can think of a single NBA professional basketball player that comes from either of those countries. So if they struggle against those 2 teams, they could be in trouble. But it's also kind of cool, even though like being from the US, you want to see your home team win. But at the same time, I think it's just showing light on how many great international players play in the NBA.
Or
Which
even in their own country's professional leagues.
Yeah, exactly. And one person who talked about it and just giving him a quick shout out here is Luka Doncic dropping 48 in his Olympic debut for his country of Slovenia. He even talked about how it's easier to score in the NBA than it is overseas, or even in the Olympics. And like Drew leading the team with 18. Who the heck would get highlighted in an NBA game in the regular season leading their team with 18? Nobody. You got to be in the 20s, 30s, 40s, like 50 point. Like that's kind of like 20s is kind of your lowest point of being recognized for, oh, that guy had a good game. Anything in the teens, you're struggling. But right now, Team USA having a guy with 18 leading the team, that just goes to show how tough it is over in the Olympics. Again, no fans, different atmosphere, all that. And then we were talking about this yesterday with how this team has a lot of great players. There's only 1 or 2 that we mentioned that are known for their defense or have any bit of defense. The rest are just scorers, which kind of, again, going back to the Nets, kind of their issue this past year. Great scoring team, was one of the worst defensive teams. So it's kind of that's kind of the way it rolls. If you have nobody that can play defense, cool, you can score a lot, but guess what? You're giving up a lot of points. So you're gonna have a lot of close games and a lot of losses. And that's just in these guys' DNA. Nobody's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna learn how to play better defense. No, they're a true born scorer. They're not gonna learn how to play defense. So
Yeah, and it was funny too. Liam McHugh, the announcer on NBCSN, he was talking about that robot, and he's just like, maybe the Sixers should give them a call for Ben Simmons. Just took a straight dig at him, dude, and I was like, I love it. I love that.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, that's kind of all that's going on in the basketball world. Other Joe and Clara Tai Foundation commits $220 million to Wu Sai Human Performance Alliance, whatever that is. That's a lot of money, so it must be important.
Yeah, what the heck? 220 million. Here you go. Here's your check. Yeah, as far as basketball goes, the only things really to talk about are going to be USA basketball and just Olympic basketball for the next week and a half here. So, yeah, jumping over to the MLB here then. The Brewers got the series win over the weekend against the White Sox. They won Friday and Saturday's game and then lost yesterday's game, and still hold a 6.5 game lead in the Central. The Cleveland Indians, soon to be Guardians after the season, end their 11 game skid with a 3-2 rally over the Rays. The Texas Rangers lose their 12th straight yesterday, which is their worst streak since 1982. And then a couple moves around the league here. The San Diego Padres acquire all-star second baseman Adam Frazier from the Pittsburgh Pirates. I didn't see what the full exchange was there, but that was the biggest take out of it was the Padres getting him. I'm sure the Pirates got a good value out of him. I would hope at least that they didn't give him away. And then not so much as a move from another team, but onto the injury list is Dodgers star Mookie Betts makes a move to the injury list after issues with his hip inflammation, I think was what they were calling it. So, yeah, that's all that there was to really talk about today for baseball.
And I got one thing. Shohei Ohtani hit a homer the other day, and he lifted the Angels over the Twins 6-2. He's got the best 35 homers now. So All-Star or the home run derby hasn't slowed him down one bit.
Yeah, I don't even know how the Angels are sitting right now, if they're even a relevant team. Because you think about it,
dead last.
Because you think about it, you got they're 11 games back. The Rangers are in last, but they're on a 12-game losing streak, so that kind of makes sense there. Yeah, 11 games back, and Houston and Oakland. Well, Houston even has a 5.5 game lead, but Oakland is doing well this season as well. But yeah, it's a shame when you got Mike Trout and then now Shohei Ohtani, two of probably the greatest players on the planet right now. Obviously Trout's still, I don't even know if he's playing right now. I know he's been dealing with injuries pretty much this whole year. Yet. Yeah. Which, I mean, being down this far on the standings, obviously no reason to rush to get him back unless you go on a huge run and Seattle, Oakland, and Houston all go on a really bad streak. You're not doing anything this season. So, yeah. So moving things over to the NHL, then the draft happened over this past weekend. What's some stuff to highlight over there?
Owen Power going number 1. That was a suspected pick there. Luke Hughes ended up going to New Jersey to join his brother Jack. Some other changes, some kind of big trades around the league here. Columbus Blue Jackets are selling the farm. They're dishing defenseman Seth Jones to the Chicago Blackhawks, and the defenseman is going to sign an 8-year extension with Chicago. So that look for Chicago to make a push this season after they dumped some dead weight, and they've been picking up some good players here along the way. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. going forward. My Flyers, they trade Jacob Voracek to Columbus for Cam Atkinson. About an even trade there, I'd say. Atkinson was a little bit less money, about $1 million less. Hoping that he keeps producing in Philly, and thank you, Jake Voracek, for everything you've done there. And for my Flyers, it's been a pleasure to watch you. The Arizona Coyotes pick legend of the team, Shane Doan, who's their captain for the longest time. They picked his son, Josh, in the second round of the NHL draft. So pretty cool that the family kind of gets to stay around the Arizona area, and the kid is going to be going into the same organization that his dad played for and was a legend for. My Flyers also got Rasmus Ristolainen from the Buffalo Sabres for their first round pick in this year's draft, which was a great move as well. Yeah. Rangers traded Pavel Buchnevich to the Blues for Sammy Blais and a 2022 second round pick. Feel like both sides win on that deal. Vancouver Canucks placed Jake Vertranen on waivers as they're going to buy him out here over the next couple days. Arizona got rid of their defenseman Ohem Ekman-Larsson and he traded them Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland were traded to the Vancouver Canucks from the Arizona Coyote for picks and some space. So I think this is a move by the Vancouver Canucks, getting rid of an older player, letting him hit the market and see if he can, maybe go chase down a ring here in the last couple of years of his career. And that's kind of all I got really going on here in the NHL. One of the kids that got in trouble over in Sweden, Logan Malou, the one who requested to not be taken in the NHL draft, was selected in the first round with the 30th pick from the Montreal Canadiens. So they released a huge statement saying how we're committed to helping this kid become a better person. We're going to get him the help that he needs and all that type of stuff. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that situation turns out. And that's really all I got in the NHL here. Just been watching a lot of Olympics. It's cool to see that it's basically 24/7 nonstop because of the time difference. So you can always be watching some sports.
Yeah, then I am trying to find the name of her. I saw it briefly for Taekwondo. Oh, right here. Anastasia Zoltek. Giving her a shout out for winning the USA's first Olympic Taekwondo gold. Which I mean is kind of to be expected. Taekwondo is kind of more of a Asian like cultured event where its roots are from. So you think that those countries over there would be kind of the top ones. So yeah, great to see USA kind of throwing their name in the hat into an event that I don't think they've ever won a medal in before, and let alone their first one as a gold. So shout out to her for getting that done there. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the Olympics. Literally on the hour, there's probably 10 plus events going on at a time. So not going to go through every single one of them, but obviously as the USA ends up on the podium, we'll make sure to highlight those for the next week and a half here.
Yeah, and as the medal counts currently stand, Japan is in first place with 8 golds, 2 silvers, and 3 bronze. They have a total of 13. The U.S., we have 14 medals, but because it goes on golds, the amounts of golds, we're in second place. We have 7 golds, 3 silvers, 4 bronze. China's in third with 6 gold medals, 5 silver, and 7 bronze for a total of 18 medals. And the ROC is in fourth. 4 gold medals, 5 silvers, 3 bronze for a total of 12. And then Great Britain's in fifth with 3, 1 for a total of 7. And then before we got on the air here, I was telling you about the ping pong match that I was watching.
Oh, yep.
Japan pulled off the upset and shocked China to get their first ever gold medal in table tennis. So awesome for Japan. That moved them into first place there. Yeah, ends China's streak. They were looking to make it 29 out of 33 gold medals in a row. Not today. Japan says not here, not my city.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome to see. I feel like that happens quite often where the host country ends up towards the top, whether that's just home court advantage to where they played in those facilities before, or if it's just them putting together one of their best rosters in however many decades, because it's at home to try to go win as many medals as you can. So, but also I feel like Japan is not necessarily a unicorn or like a Cinderella story. I feel like they're always one of the top countries. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the same Japan, US, China, Russia, Britain, Australia. You know, those are kind of the ones that normally are fighting for the top.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had for today.
All right, yeah, that's all I got as well. And thank you guys, everyone, for stopping by. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to our social medias in the description link below. And yeah, that's kind of all I got here. Go USA for the Olympics, and we'll be back on Wednesday.
Sounds good. We'll be back on Wednesday.